priest friend of mine would occasionally quip after Mass, in the afterlife, there are two scents, incense or brimstone. Choose now. Normally this would come after a particularly smoky Mass in an attempt to forestall the onslaught of complaints. But what he said in defense of his liturgical practices is a biblical truth that we encounter in today's reading from John's Revelation. We see the loud voice of the great multitude in heaven crying out, "Hallelujah! The smoke from her goes up forever and ever." But because we are jumping around in our reading of Revelation, we don't really get the full impact of this because we're just jumping to the praise. We want the victory without the war. So let's back up a bit to see a bit more, that way that we can join our voices in the cry of victory. Chapter 17 introduces us to the foe. One of the seven angels who had the seven bowls came to me and said, "Come, I will show you the judgment of the great prostitute." Then we get the description of what is commonly known as the whore of Babylon. I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast that was full of blasphemous names, and it had 7 heads and 10 horns. The woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet, and adorned with gold and jewels and pearls, holding in her hand a cup full of abominations and the impurities of her sexual immorality. And I saw the woman drink with the blood of the saints, the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. Now what we should see here is a symbolic figure that ends up being the opposite of another symbolic figure. And in order to see the first, we must describe the second. The virginal bride of Christ is described in chapter 21. Then came one of the 7 angels who had the 7 bowls full of the 7 last plagues and spoke to me, saying, "Come, I will show you the bride, the wife of the Lamb." And he carried me to a great city, a great and high mountain, and showed me the holy city Jerusalem, coming down from heaven from God, having the glory of God, its radiance, like the most rare jewel, like a jasper, clear as crystal. And it had a great high wall with 12 gates, and on the gates 12 angels, and on the gates the names of the 12 tribes of the sons of Israel were inscribed. And the wall of the city had 12 foundations, and on them were the 12 names of the 12 apostles of the Lamb. So why did we just get a description of a city when the angel tells John he is going to show him the bride? Because the bride of Christ is the church, the New Jerusalem. St. Paul tells us as much in his second letter to the Corinthians. "I betroth you to one husband, to present you as a pure virgin to Christ." He is speaking to his entire church there. The church is the virginal bride of Christ, presented to him with the radiance of the most rare jewel. The whore of Babylon, then, is a symbolic figure meant to be the mirror image, the complete opposite. Whereas the virginal bride has remained pure, the prostitute has corrupted herself. And not only has she corrupted herself, but now she flaunts that corruption as her symbol in the golden cup full of abominations and the impurity of her sexual immorality. She is the world. She is a culture that builds up sin as its greatest achievement. In relation to the recent law passed in Alabama against abortion, I saw a picture on Facebook that speaks to the world holding up their sin as a scepter of rule. And in doing a little research on the picture, I learned that this image was actually an older image from a counter-protest to the San Francisco Walk for Life that had 2 women holding up a sign, one of the women seemingly dressed as the Virgin Mary, and holding the sign that read, "If Mary had an abortion, we wouldn't be in this mess. And it is a true sign, but not for the freedom these two women think. We would not be in this mess. We would be in a far greater mess than the one we are currently in. Holding up sin as a value to which others should uphold and join the crowd is exactly what the whore of Babylon requires. It is exactly what the world requires, because every sin that goes unresisted becomes a gateway for the next and greater sin. And if we go back to the description of the prostitute, we see her seated on many waters. These waters are described by the angel. The waters that you saw are the peoples and the multitudes and nations and languages. These are the people who have taken up the cry of the prostitute and joined her to create a seemingly unstoppable tidal wave coming to destroy the earth. Then the seeming battle royal that is about to take place is never mentioned. Instead, we get the announcement of the victory that we encounter today. Hallelujah! Salvation and glory and power belong to our God, for his judgments are true and just, for he has judged the great prostitute and has avenged on her the blood of his servants. Hallelujah! The smoke from her goes up forever and ever. The victory over those who became the prostitute, the tool of the devil, are forever defeated and in utter ruin, smoldering forever as a perpetual sign of their defeat. This is the smoke of brimstone that my priest friend spoke of, the endless smoldering remnants of the defeated kingdom. The other smoke is the incense of the faithful as they forever offer their prayers to God in the New Jerusalem. Two scents in the afterlife: the scent of brimstone and everlasting defeat, or the scent of incense and everlasting life in God. Two scents. Choose now, for the battle lines have already been drawn and are increasingly apparent. The outcome also already has been determined. We have the benefit of getting to choose now which scent we will inhale for all eternity. In the name of the Father, and the Son,